I had something on my mind. Just wanted to open up a topic for whatever question. And that is, I'll tell you where this question came from. Yesterday I made two videos. And one of them was how to understand and forgive someone and that you've been struggling with to understand and thus fully forgive. Because for me, I always try to understand everything. I guess not everybody's wired that way, but I have a hard time forgiving someone if I can't understand why they did what they did. Unless they apologize, that changes everything. If they ask for forgiveness, I don't need to know. But it's complicated. But in that video, I got pretty emotional about some things I did in my past a long time ago, and it really bothered me. I mean, I didn't plan on getting emotional, dredging that up, but also the inability for me to fully forgive someone. That video, I got emotional about things at the end of it. And I wondered, like with me, what I did as an adolescent with my BB gun and my .22. And I certainly wasn't the only adolescent doing these things, doing these things. My friends were, and a lot of people have done these kind of things. But it really haunts me, or it did. And now I think I understand why it happened, so that it would enable me to forgive other people for doing things I consider really horrible. That's in another video. But I wondered also, why do these things bother me so much? I'm talking about hunting, small game, birds, frogs, pretty much anything that moved. Came across my rifle sight when I was like age 11 or 12 to age 15 when God showed me, I'm not going to go into that again, but when God straightened me out and convicted me that what I was doing was wrong, and I repented 100%. But that stuff looking back at it, never used to bother me. I mean, I knew it was wrong. I'd always said, I don't hunt for that reason, and I'll never do that again. And I haven't, all through my life up to now. And I just accepted that I had repented from it, and I would never repeat that mistake again. It never used to haunt me like it does in recent years. Because yesterday, before I made that video, before I even thought of making a video, I was looking up plans to make bird feeders and bird houses. I feel like I have a tremendous debt to nature for hunting these little animals just for sport, when I was a kid. And it really bothers me. And I struggle with the other issue, with the other, there's actually two different situations where people have hurt people I love or hurt myself. It's kind of unresolved. And I tell all that in that video, how it came together, God's instruction on that. I'm having a hard time I had a tooth pulled, and I've got sinus issues. I've been sick for like 5 months. I mean, not deathly ill, but I've been sick. So it's starting to show, and it's been a long winter. I'm still here, though, plugging away at this channel. So why do these things bother me now that I'm older? To the extent they really bother me, and I beg Jesus for forgiveness, and thank Him for forgiveness, but I still wrestle with it. Or I did. I think I had the answer yesterday, the resolution to that, which is why I made the video. Why do some guys, and I guess women too in their way, soften up when they get old while other ones harden up? Why do some old men make wars and some old men regret the wars that they were in? I mean, I'm looking at the world situation, and it still is pretty much older men making these wars that young people have to fight. And, I know you know that I was in the military, and I was a different person then. I was a little more, things didn't get to me like they do now. I wouldn't have broke down weeping about the things I did as an adolescent. I would have said, yeah, that was wrong, and I stopped doing it. And that would have been the end of that. I wouldn't have gotten emotional about it, but I do now because I feel convicted. But, I'm just seeing where this Tim Blab, seeing where it goes. I've been praying to God to convict me probably for the past 10 or 15 years. I want, when I go before the Lord, as I will go before the Lord, I don't want him to throw open any closet doors that have been locked shut. If I've got issues, and I've got issues, and I've probably got more that he needs to illuminate, I want to address them in this life. Because I firmly believe that we all make mistakes, and that's the reason we're here, maybe, to learn. But some people make some grievous mistakes, and they don't own up to them. They dismiss them. They acquit themselves. They don't care. They're callous. Or they'll lie to themselves about why they did the things they did, and they'll acquit themselves and dismiss all charges on their own.
And thus skip the spiritual growth opportunities God gives them, and will continue to do the same wrongs until they go before the Lord, or they finally make that move and own up to their wrongs and learn from it and seek forgiveness as well in learning. Or they'll go before the Lord carrying those wrongs. That's what I believe.
I don't operate that way because, I have a firm belief in God, and if seeing's believing, you've heard some of my stories, which has made my belief in God all the more firmer. Because, I've witnessed quite a few things from heaven, hell, and in between throughout my life. And God has spoken to me, and he's worked with me. So I think I can't even imagine, like when I was a young man in the Army as a machine gunner, sniper, and tanks and all that stuff. Man, there were soldiers in Christ's time, and some soldiers Jesus respected. Cornelius, I believe, the centurion who had great faith that all Jesus had to do was say the word and his daughter would be healed. His slave would be healed.
Okay, I got to straighten this out. I always like to get the Bible verses right and try to catch my mistakes. So there are two centurions in the New Testament. Cornelius is one, and the one I just referred to is out of the book of Matthew. They're two different people. So I'll read to you what I've got on these two. The one I was referring to, Matthew chapter 8, verse 5 through 13. The faith of the centurion. When Jesus had entered Capernaum, a centurion came to him asking for help. Lord, he said, my servant lies at home paralyzed, suffering terribly. Jesus said to him, shall I come and heal him? The centurion replied, Lord, I do not deserve to have you come under my roof. But just say the word, and my servant will be healed. For I myself am a man under authority, with soldiers under me. I tell this one, go, and he goes, and that one, come, and he comes. I say to my servant, do this, and he does it. When Jesus heard this, he was amazed, and said to those following him, truly, I tell you, I have not found anyone in Israel with such great faith. I say to you that many will come from the east and the west, and will take their places at the feast with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. But the subjects of the kingdom will be thrown outside into the darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Then Jesus said to the centurion, go, and let it be done, just as you believed it would. And his servant was healed at that moment. Okay, Cornelius was a different centurion, and I'll read to you the history and facts around him in the Bible. According to the Bible, Cornelius was First, a Roman centurion, he held a position of command in the Roman military, specifically in the cohors 2 Italica Civium Romanorum, also known as the Italian Regiment. Second, Cornelius was a God-fearing man. The Bible describes him as a devout, prayerful, and generous person. Third, and significant in early Christianity, his story, which is found in Acts chapter 10, if you want to check it out, is considered pivotal because he is regarded by many Christians as the first Gentile convert to Christianity. Cornelius lived in Caesarea. This was the capital of Roman Judea at the time. Cornelius was the recipient of a divine vision. The Bible states that an angel of God appeared to Cornelius, and this event led to the Apostle Peter visiting him. And finally, the head of the household that was baptized, Cornelius and his household were all baptized by Peter. And you can find that story in Acts chapter 10.
So just being a soldier doesn't make you a bad person. But I'll tell you what, I have served with a lot of guys through the years who have taken life in combat. And because I'm serving with them, they've spoken to me a great deal. And moreover than that, in my mother's nursing home, I've talked to guys who were World War I veterans, a lot of World War II veterans. My father was one. A lot of them. And because I was in the Army and I had a little bit of a military background, these veterans would open up and talk to me like I was one of them. And they would tell me some horrible things that they'd witnessed, and in some cases, some horrible things they'd done or seen done. And I've seen many old men break down and cry. Not many, but a few. Break down and cry. I've even talked to ex-German soldiers in World War II when I was in Berlin. And they're pretty much the same way. They didn't like to think about the horrible things they went through when they were, teenagers or whatever. And they went through a lot of really bad stuff too. And young men suffer, or young men fight the wars that old men make. But some old men, like myself, they regret things they've done wrong in the past. And like I said, I've talked to quite a few veterans. Some of them not that old. I talked to vets that have served more recently in the Middle East and killed people, quite a few. And they're pretty shaken up by it. They tell me they don't sleep well at night. I know a guy I served with he served in Vietnam in the Marine Corps on a riverboat. And he told me he wasn't, these guys, I know when somebody's making stuff up. He's not making it up. This guy had scars all over his body from Vietnam. And he killed a lot of Viet Cong, according to him. And he told me about the first guy he killed in Vietnam. He said it was 1966, and the guy was climbing over the wire at night, and he shot him, killed him. And the next day, sure enough, there's the guy was laying dead. And his name's Pat Sims, the guy I'm talking about, good man. Retired chief of the fire department in Syracuse. A lot of service to the country and the community. But he told me he threw up and he felt like he needed to be arrested. And instead they gave him a pat on the back for getting the guy. And that was quite a sobering moment for him. And I could tell other stories that I've heard from veterans, but they're very similar. And Pat told me recently that it didn't sit well with him, what he did back then in Vietnam. He says it didn't, I forgot his words, but as the years go by, it's harder and harder remembering these things he'd done, killing in combat. And I've talked to other veterans like that. And, I'm just talking about killing birds, but they're God's creation. Birds, frogs, rabbits, whatever, with my rifle, wantonly, got a thrill out of it as a kid. That haunts me. I can't imagine what these guys went through. And I pretty much I was supposed to get some guys as a sniper, and they surrendered, so I didn't have to shoot them. I've been shot at. I know exactly what machine gun bullets versus rifle bullets versus pistol bullets sound like flying by your head. I've been there for that. But I'm looking at people like some of our world leaders right now. How do they live with themselves? And I hate to say it, I don't think anybody has ever served. I'm an American. I don't think, anybody's ever served in the White House that doesn't have blood on their hands. Think about it. Even Jimmy Carter. He had to make decisions that got people killed. Even Jimmy Carter. The current president, they all have to make calls that get people killed. And sometimes people say, you ever think about, I would never want to be president, because you can't go into that office and come out without blood on your hands. But they do it anyway. So why do some old men start wars, and some of them are mobsters or what have you, while other people get old and they start sorting out their conscience before God, like myself, trying to clean the house before I'm called home, open up all the closet doors, turn the lights on, ask the Lord to come in and convict me and show me, because I've done things I'm not even aware of. I want everything exposed. It's very important to me to be in very good standing when I go before the Lord, and we all will, and you know this. It's very important to me, because it's just a continuation of my existence, a continuation of who I am. And I don't want to, I want to do well. I love God, and I want to make him happy. And as much as I can. And, we go through things in life. Some of us don't get to grow old. A lot of us don't, honestly. And if I look over there, I've got on my wall pictures of all kinds of people in my family, going back to the 1800s. I actually have a picture of just some old paintings of old ancestors, a long time ago, hundreds of years ago. And pictures of all kinds of people on there, right up to present, with Jen and my mom, who recently have departed. And Jen wasn't very old at all. It's my family pictures on the wall. And I think the answer to my question I come up with, it's how they lived their life. They lived their life pursuing money and power. And they found it. And when they got older, money and power was what they knew. It was their rock, their Gibraltar. They couldn't do without it. They need to acquire more. How much money does someone need to be happy? I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what I got in the bank. I have $370 in the bank, and I feel pretty rich. All my bills are paid. I got everything I need. I got more money coming in. I generally have about $1,000 in the bank, and I feel pretty good about that at the end of the day. I would like to have more, but if I don't, I don't. I'm not going to dedicate my life to it. I've got medical insurance. I'm very lucky. God's taking care of me. I'm very lucky in that, and I thank God for that. I got all I need. So I'm going to read a couple things. One's a Bible verse, and one is something from a historian. First, the Bible verse, Matthew chapter 6, verse 24. Jesus Christ said, "No one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you'll be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money." That is so true from what I've seen. It has not been my life goal to get to amass wealth. I've tried to put some money together for sure, and I still am. I have 3 job interviews lined up, good paying jobs, this week. So I tried to look younger, so I shaved my whiskers off. Lo and behold, there's an old face. I can't fool anybody at this age. So you cannot serve both God and money. Jesus said that. And that's so true. And at what point does a man's life become dedicated to trying to acquire wealth, material goods, and status, power, money, and all that come with it, women or whatever your kicks are, nice things, land, property, a sterling bank account, I don't know. You think you've got security in your old age? You don't know that you're going to see old age. I've seen that happen more than once. Somebody else gets your pile. Some things never change. Okay, now when it comes to power and money, for power, I'm going to read something that a British historian, Lord Acton, A-C-T-O-N, Lord Acton, wrote this in 1887. And I think you've definitely heard this. He's the one, British historian Lord Acton, who said in 1887, power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Again, from Lord Acton. Power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Have you seen this? I mean, I see this all over the place. How much money and power does one person need? Where do they think they're going with it? Look at these people are billionaires. Used to be being a millionaire made you like a wealthy guy, like a Monopoly, the guy with the top hat. You have $1 million. That ain't nothing anymore. It's nothing. In some circles. I know I talked to somebody in Cuba, and gifting them $50 is big bucks. It depends upon where you're at. And they're as happy and good person as I've ever met. They would like to have more, and they work for more, and they're oppressed. But yeah, it depends upon who you are. I don't want to get political, but how much money does somebody need for their one life, which may include a wife and a couple of kids, maybe adult kids, grandkids, and they have millions, billions, and it's not enough. They have positions of power and authority like I can't even imagine, and they're still trying, when they're my age and older than me, to acquire more power and authority. And they'll go to war. They'll even go to war for it. They're so bent on power and authority, or trying to establish a legacy for their life. A legacy of what? They better worry about their legacy before God. At what point did they lose their sight in the Lord? Did they ever have their sight in the Lord? It's things that I'm seeing now in myself, getting weepy, remembering things I did as a kid with a BB gun and a .22. And I'm not trying to downplay it. I still feel bad about it. I mean, I got some kind of sick thrill out of it, for a little while till God delivered me from that path. I'm ashamed of it. But it also, as I found out yesterday, it enabled me to be able to understand and forgive people who have done horrible things to me. So at what point does I'll just speak for men, does a guy start serving money and not God? And how many guys don't even realize that they're serving money and not God? I'll name a guy, Joel Osteen. I like to pick on him. But there's plenty of others that they wear the cloth, supposedly, and they're so wealthy, so manicured, polished, wealthy. At what point does a guy get off track, and he gets on the wrong track? Maybe he started out on the right track, pursuing the truer things in life and God's word and God's relationship with our Lord. Or just being true to himself, a true person, a good person. And they start pursuing worldly things. They want to show the world that they're successful, that they've got a successful business, they've got a beautiful house and a lot of money in the bank, and good furnishings and a couple of cars, what have you. And they take nice vacations to show people that they are a success. A success to who? Other people pursuing the wrong things? Who's going to look up to that? Other people that want that type of lifestyle, that they're serving money, not God? Somebody that they're showing the example to serve money, be successful, show that you're a success. And it can be at a small level to where I've always said, I think God kept me from being, because my plans were I should have been retired with a full New York State teaching pension, and I didn't plan on just being a teacher. And I'm fully qualified to, but my 9/11 service derailed that. But I wanted to work my way up, principal and superintendent. That was my goal. And I would have a pretty fat pension from New York State right now, and I would have a full military pension, which I have, which is enough. I didn't need the teacher pension. And I'd have Social Security and whatever else I could put together. I always thought that my mother always was pretty well off, but she worked hard for it. A successful businesswoman, an honest businesswoman, helping people, of honest work. But I always said it's always nice for someone in the family to have money, to help others out. When they're down, like their car breaks down, or they're out of a house, or they need some money for emergency. It's always good to have someone in your family you can turn to and say, hey, can you help me out? And dad says, yeah, I can do this. Don't worry about it. If dad thinks that they're going to misappropriate the money, dad will say, no, you're going to have to help yourself out this time. You got yourself into this. And if you can work your way out of it, you can do it. But you know what I'm saying. Wisely help people out. That they know if worse comes to worse, rock bottom, they're in trouble. They went out on vacation somewhere and had all their money and wallet stolen, and they're stuck. Well, they're not stuck because they know at the end of the day, somebody in their family will get them home. You know what I'm saying? And I thought that would be me. Some of my kids do better than me financially. God bless them. I'm doing all right. I'm fine. So is that serving money? Just trying to be well off? At what point? Hopefully never. I always said, like I said, that God kept me from that. Because I told people, well, if I would have had that teacher's pension on top of what I have now, I would have been just another guy like you see around here my age. And he's got a nice house with a 2-car garage. He's got a snowmobile, 2 snowmobiles. He's got a pontoon boat. Got a big truck and a nice car. And a nice comfortable house with a giant TV screen and all that comfortable garbage, and a lawn that's big enough to be a football field. And that stuff starts owning you, honestly, at that point. So I said, God spared me from that. I'm glad he did, because I don't think I'd want to live that type of life. I don't. I'm just blabbing. At what point do people take the wrong turn? There's nothing wrong with trying to be successful at all. The Bible doesn't say that we're supposed to just be bumpkins. You know what I'm saying. There's a simple life and a life dedicated to our Lord, number one. If you keep God number one, that is your compass in life. And more than one thing, not just this situation about serving money and not God. Keep God number one. And then your life compass is on true north. And it's not off somewhere else. And you're going the wrong direction when your life's compass is not on God. So that's what happens. Getting to the end of this blab session, some of these, let's look at people in world power right now that are wealthier than. First, let me answer the one question I asked earlier. How much money does one person need to be happy? It just goes up and up and up. I got everything I want. I don't have a pontoon boat. I got an old dirt bike and a car that I pay cash for. But if I have more money, then I would want a big truck, because I like having it would be nice to have a big truck in bad weather. And would that be enough? There's always more to get. Maybe a boat. I've always wanted a boat. And I get the boat. Maybe I want a new boat, a bigger boat, a faster boat. I take a vacation. I want to take a more expensive vacation. You know, I go to France and I'm kind of living on a shoestring, but I'm just fine with it. I got everything I need and I'm happy. But maybe I want to go and live high off the hog, the high life. I went to Brittany, France, because it was pretty cheap in Brittany compared to Paris. Maybe I want to go to Monte Carlo, where all the world's wealthiest go. Or maybe I want to go to the French Riviera and stay in the best hotels and live that life for a while. Where does it end? Well, if I keep my compass on God, then I should be all right. And He'll keep me all right too, hopefully. But I don't know. How much money does one person need? Just all you need is food, shelter, clothing. Like I said, I've got a friend in Cuba, and they're poor. They're very poor down there. And she's got a son, somebody I write to. And she has pretty much a shack in Havana. But she keeps it very clean, and she's very good at cooking with what food she can afford. Very good at it, because a friend of mine, Tom, knows this person personally. And she's very good with what she has. And she loves God. She does love God, and she's very wise with that. And she has nothing. She's lucky if she makes $30 a month. You know, it's a communist country. Things are different. I don't understand it. Never been down there. I'm not planning on going down there at this point, but how much money do you need? You've got health insurance. That's good to have. Food, health insurance, shelter. You know, a little money now and then. She likes to have a drink and go out dancing now and then. But she can't afford to do that often. How much money do you need? She'd like to have more. She'd like to open her own store up. So we're all, even people that live humbly, are no different than the rest of us. How much money do you need? I would say, to answer that question, food, shelter, clothing. Where I live, you need transportation. I need transportation in a small town or in a rural setting because I don't ride a horse. And if I got to go to work or to the doctor or to the store, I got to drive there. I got a motorcycle and a car. There's no taxis, buses, or trains or airports where I live. You either walk, ride a bike, or you drive, or a motorcycle. Or if you're Amish, a horse. I don't see too many of them riding horses anymore, really, but some of them do. So food, shelter, clothing, medical insurance, transportation. That's what you need. And honestly, here's where we go. Need a little more for like a slush fund for emergencies. It's good to have. Honestly, where I live in central New York, and it's one of the most expensive states in the United States and on earth. I would say it would be good to have about $3,000 in the bank for an emergency fund. You know, car breaks down, medical expense, or somebody I know and love direly needs some help. So food, shelter, clothing, a roof over my head, medical insurance. Here you got to have heat in the winter. It gets very cold here. And you need a snowblower. If you have a big driveway and you're old, you're not going to shovel it. It kind of adds up. And that and enough money. Well, I already said food. I'd say 2 or 3 grand, $3 grand in the bank for a slush fund, emergency fund. That's all you need. $3 grand in the bank and the bare necessities. That's it. That's it. I know people who are stressing right now because their life, they have a house paid for, a nice house, vehicles that are paid for, and their life savings is in the low millions. In the low millions. Man, I got $365 in the bank. I got a bunch more coming in this week. That's when everything comes in at the end of the month for me. But I feel pretty good about that. I don't know. I've really blabbed on here quite a bit. Really. But where do some people lose track? I mean, I look at some of these people, the wealthiest people on earth. I'm not going to name any names, but think of a few of the uber wealthy. And I look at them because they're very public, most of them, some of them, not most of them. And they're no different, no better, no worse than me or you fundamentally. I mean, I tell you about that time God gave me a choice between paths, and I could have been very well off. And he said I would have everything good that this world has to offer. And God said, this world does have some good things to offer. Or I could just be some obscure, lonely, kind of occasionally ate up dude like myself. And but I would learn a little more in life. But God said it didn't matter either way to him, whether I was the rich man who had a good life, an easy life, with all the love of his the good things God said, health, a good love, health, and integrity. Those were the things that God seemed to value. I learned so much from that visit. Because I've taken it apart through the years. And that's the way it is with God. You know it's from God when the truths just keep multiplying. They're like 4-dimensional truths, like the Word of God in the Bible. How many times do you read a passage and it gives you a truth, and you read it again, it gives you another truth, and it keeps doing that? The Word of God is like 4 or 5-dimensional, living Word. It keeps instructing us. And that visit I had with God, his words to me keep teaching me. And he put a value, earthly value. He wanted us to love him. Nothing can separate us from him. Those of his children, nothing. But he put a high value on personal integrity, on health. You know, we're not always going to get health. He put having a true love, a good marriage. That's something that's worth something. We're not always going to get that either. But integrity, going back to a video I made a couple weeks ago from Sir Walter Scott. Integrity, truth, or honor is a gift a man gives himself, and none can take it away from him unless he gives it away. So if you don't have a great marriage and you're not wealthy, you could always be a person of integrity, and you can be a very rich person in God's eyes if you are a person of impeccable, bulletproof integrity. And that's even upright people can fall. I try to be upright. I make mistakes, things I regret. But that's something, a gift you give yourself. And let no man step on your tartan. That's the end of that verse from Sir Walter Scott and Rob Roy. Honor is a gift a man, I'm going to say it because I just feel good saying it. Honor is a gift a man gives himself, and none can take it away from him unless he gives it away. And let no man step on your tartan. There's more to it, like never misalign a man and never dishonor a woman, things like that. His advice to his son, Rob Roy's advice to his son. Now, Sir Walter Scott was an atheist. When I'm into somebody, I read their biography. But even Apostle Paul said something about how even the Gentiles do what's right because they know what's right. How much more we who know God should do what's right when even the heathen, like Paul said, do what's right. And I'll put that verse up here at the end. Because if I say something from the Bible, I want to make sure I get it right. Occasionally I don't. So keep God your true north always. I'm giving advice to you who could give me advice. But I've done this blab session. I at least need to try to come up with some answers that I've raised. How do you keep from being the man or woman who worships power and money before God, which happens to so many? Keep God your true north. And by keeping God your true north, seek Him, pray to Him every day. Ask God to search you out, to illuminate dark areas within you that you don't see or you refuse to see because you don't want to part with it, or you don't want to change. Ask Him to convict you. I do this for myself, and hence you get me weeping about things I did wrong that I never would have before. When I got older, I've been asking God almost daily to convict me and, make me a better person. And strive to have integrity. And don't be uppity about it. It's a gift you give yourself to have integrity, to be as honest to a fault, even. Not honest to the point where you're hurting people. I think you've got to have some grace there, where, hey, I'm going to tell them the truth, but you got to know the truth's going to hurt them. I mean, you have to use some discretion where you're honest to a fault. These are things you work through in your life. And it takes work. It takes a lot of prayer. So honor is a gift you give yourself. Even if life didn't gift you with perfect health or a perfect marriage or a perfect love that lasts forever, I think true love survives the grave. I believe that. I have reason to believe that because of visitations I've had from deceased loved ones, both family and possibly my soulmate. So we'll just leave that in God's hands, those things, and let Him handle the things that we can't handle, the things that are too big for us to handle, and ask Him to teach us for instruction. Like He taught me, there was actually some value in what I learned that He showed me when I was 15. What I was doing was wrong. There's value that I could carry on to my old age, where I'm getting old, yes. Where I could apply it to my current life and things in the past on how to understand other sinners that have transgressed me hard and never asked forgiveness. So it became an open wound. Well, He showed me, you're and this sinner, you are the same person. We both are sinners. Now, I have the grace of Christ. These people may or may not. That's between them and the Lord, and that deserves prayer. So try to be a person of integrity. And if you have the good things in life, I have reason to believe that doesn't necessarily separate you from God unless you allow it to. So I've really gone on and on. I don't know if I'm going to post this. I've got all kinds of time on my hands. I mean, it's snowy out and I'm not working. I've done so much housework. I've done all my housework. I work on my music. I don't know, a lot of time with four walls and my thoughts. But I do believe that it's God's will. I have three job interviews. I just had one today, and I got one tomorrow, and I have one Monday. And probably more, because I'm trying hard to go back to work. But at the same time, I've been sick for like 5 months, and it's starting to show. When you're sick for like 5 months, it'll wear you down. When you're alone too, it's starting to wear me down, but I'll get through. I'm going to wrap this blab session up. Why do some, how and why? At what point in George Soros's life, I don't want to pick out people because I don't want to get political. But at what point in this well-off person's life, whether they be a billionaire or just someone with a few $1 million in their, just a few $1 million in their account, or maybe they got $50,000 in their bank account. That's a lot of money to a lot of people I know. At what point in your life are you serving money and not God? And you're struggling for power so much as a leader that you're willing to send young men to their deaths so that you may make a legacy for yourself and acquire even more power on the world stage. And these are usually older men, my age or older. Don't they know they're not going? They got to go before the Lord, and all this that they acquire here is stripped away. What are they thinking? What do they care about their legacy here? It'll be forgotten. The Taj Mahal, I'll give you an example. I heard a minister say once about these things, about your legacy, about remembering even somebody you loved. I'm not going to name off names, but the Taj Mahal in India, very beautiful building. It was built by an emperor a long time ago to honor his wife who died. To remember her name, the Taj Mahal. So that people, and we all can think of the Taj Mahal. I get an image in my head. Do you know the name of this woman? His wife? I don't. I'll bet you 99.999% of people on this earth don't. She's forgotten. Utterly forgotten. Do you know the name of the person who built this, the Taj Mahal? I would say 99.999% of people. Maybe take 19 off. People in India might know it. 99.9% don't know his name either. They are both forgotten. Where do these people think they're going that are starting these wars and doing all these maneuvers with things, with money and trade and people's lives and people's livelihoods to acquire power, status, and legacy and money? I mean, that's just the top end of things. The very tip top of how far this can go. But you could take it all the way down to like people who have $10,000 in the bank around here. And they're serving money because, I don't know, you know what I'm saying. At what point do people become that way? And I started the question off, at what point do people serve money and power to the point that they'll even get people killed or kill people to acquire more money and power? Cartel leaders, criminals, world leaders, you name it, gangsters. At what point does money become that important that you're willing to have other people die for your money so that you may acquire more wealth and status? And the young men die and the foot soldiers grow old and regret everything they did. You know? What an irony that is. At some point, these people's true north, if it ever was on God, definitely strayed off and they went that way with it. Though they may still see God, but because of their sin and money and power is now their God, it separates them from God, like Jesus said, because they look at God, and at some point deep in their soul, they say, there's somebody I love. God and Jesus I love. Since I was a child, they may be saying this. This old man, this old gangster, this old world leader, this old billionaire, this old mobster, this old businessman. And yet they've gone this way, loving money and power, status. And they took their eyes off God. And they're ashamed to look back at God because God's still looking at them. It'd be like me. It's like, oh, you know, if there's one person in my life that is always true to me, like having a dog, I'm not saying God like a dog, but like having a dog, they excel at faithfulness and love. A dog that stays with you, you're from birth to your grave. Somebody with that kind of faithfulness and then some. I shouldn't have said dog. That's God spelled backwards. Sorry. You know what I'm saying. It'd be like betraying your dog, the most loyal thing in your life, walking away from it, and then seeing it, and you'd be ashamed of yourself. So you know the God's there, but you don't really want to look at that. You're too busy pursuing the other stuff, right? Where the devil wants you. And don't think that you're above it, and I'm not above it either. We can be above it, but it's quite a blab session. I didn't even know where I was going with it. It was just a general question I thought I'd talk about because I wonder this when I look at people in the world and I look at people, world leaders, and right down to my own level of society. I see people that have gone a different way, pursuing money and status and material gain, pad their bank accounts, and show the world they're successful. You don't hear them talking about Jesus much. Or they could be like Joel Osteen. I think he's a false. You can't have that kind of money and proclaim to be a disciple of Christ, because Christ would have told you you're wrong. I'm pretty sure of it. Would have told you, sell what you have, give it to the poor, and don't worry about it. He'll take care of your needs. I'm going down another path now. It's a big subject. I don't condemn these people, none of them. I feel sorry for them because I see them as like myself, because I always try to do the best at whatever I do. And I'm very competitive, or I used to be when I was younger. But God just seemed to, he had a different path for me in life. So I thank God for that path. And these people were successful too, and they've harvested the fruits of their success, which has taken them, in my opinion, to lesser or greater extent off their true north to God. I'm going to be repeating myself at this point. So, well, I'm going to sum it up. At some point, I'm going to repeat myself. At some point, I think these people who've allowed the pursuit of money, the pursuit of power and legacy, pursuit of material success, I think they've taken their eyes off true north to God, compass, and I think they've compromised possibly integrity along the way. They haven't been true to themselves or true to God. And they become callous. At some point, the world leaders have become callous to who's getting killed because of their decisions. Their heart has hardened. It can, mobsters, there's different degrees of this. Different degrees. Definitely. So may the Lord keep us humble and keep our hearts and souls and minds pointed directly at Him, because that's where we're headed. That's where we're headed, all of us. Fact. All right, I've gone on and on. There'll be more of these.